name is Rafael, you're watching Rock and Roll Garage, and today we're going to talk about 4 famous musicians who are big fans of The Doors. But first, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave your comment. Well, let's start. The first one sadly already passed away, and it was Mr. David Bowie. He really liked The Doors, and back in the 70s, he was part of a radio show, and he chose many songs to be played on that show, and one of them was Love Street, famous The Doors track, which was released on their 1968 album Waiting for the Sun. And this is what David Bowie said about The Doors before introducing the track. He said, "It's a big gray out today, but I've got some water and I've got a bunch of records. So I think I was walking outside the moment. I would like to be walking on this street. It's Love Street by The Doors. A commanding performer, Jim Morrison. I remember seeing him once. I think it was the Roundhouse when they came to London the first time." So it's really cool to know that David Bowie liked The Doors. So he's the first one on the list. He really liked the band that was formed by Jim Morrison, Ray Manzarek, John Densmore, and Robby Krieger. And we move to the second one on the list, which is Carlos Santana. And he is really a big fan of The Doors. In an interview with Guitar World back in 2021, he was asked if the messages from the songs of the 60s were still important nowadays, we're still being heard by people. And he said they totally are, and he mentioned The Doors, and this is what he said. "Yes, when I close my eyes and play, I always think of The Doors, which is one of my favorite bands. I love The Doors more than anyone or anything. There's something about The Doors and Light My Fire." And Robby Krieger, I guess he was listening to Ali Akbar Khan and also Ravi Shankar, but The Doors is the ultimate garage band. And that's really cool that Santana is a big fan of them. And during this interview, he also said that the world would be a better place if they played artists like John Coltrane and The Doors in elevators. He said it would be a better place. And the curious thing is that he had the chance to cover The Doors a few times. He covered in the studio, and he had the late legendary keyboardist Ray Manzarek being part of the cover. He covered Riders on the Storm on his 2010 album called Guitar Heaven, and the vocalist in that track was the late Linkin Park vocalist Chester Bennington. It's a really nice version. If you haven't heard, you should check it out. And Ray, the late legendary Ray Manzarek, played in that track. And also Santana covered The Doors a few times live. There once, back in 2017, during the Founders Award, he had the chance to play songs like Backdoor Man, Roadhouse Blues, and Riders on the Storm. So Carlos Santana is another big fan of the Los Angeles band. And the third one is Alice Cooper. And the interesting thing is that Alice had the chance to hang out with Jim Morrison and all the other guys in the band, still when they were still active before, obviously, Morrison's death, because Alice Cooper opened it for The Doors. Can you believe that? Alice Cooper was The Doors opening act when Alice Cooper was not only Vincent Furnier, the Alice Cooper as we all know. It was actually a band with Vincent as the leader, and then obviously the original guys left the band, and he continued with the name and etc. Becoming a solo artist. And this is what he said in an interview with when Rolling Stone he was asked by Rolling Stone in 2008 to list the best singers of all time, and he put it in that list Jim Morrison. For him, Jim was one of the greatest vocalists of all time. And in an interview with GQ magazine back in 2019, Alice recalled meeting the Doors. He said, "We opened it for the Doors, so I got to know Jim and those guys pretty well. Robby Krieger was, and still is, a good friend of mine. Jim Morrison, I was not shocked when he died because Jim was a very self-destructive human being. He was a consummate pro. When he was working in the studio, he was on it. When he was on stage, he was as good as anybody ever. But away from that, he was different. So I wasn't surprised about that, even though his death was an accident." And this is what he said about them. And he had the chance to pay tribute a few times to the Doors, especially with the Hollywood Vampires, which is a super group formed by Alice, Joe Perry from Aerosmith, and the actor Johnny Depp. They played mainly covers of famous bands they were influenced by, and etc. And they played many of the Doors tracks over the years they were on the road. And he was asked in 2022 in an interview with Classic Rock about Jim Morrison as well, and he said he once called Jim Morrison, and he asked Jim what he did that day, what he was doing. It was in the morning, and this is what Jim said: I don't know, man. I woke up this morning and got myself a beer," which is a line, the first line of Roadhouse Blues, the incredible song released in 1970 on the Morrison Hotel album. And we reached the final on the list, who sadly already passed away as well back in 2001, which is Joey Ramone, the Ramones vocalist, lyricist, and one of the greatest frontmans of all time, in my opinion. And you think, well, that one was quite obvious, because the Ramones covered the Doors, and they covered, it's a really nice cover. If you haven't heard yet, I really like their version. They released a cover for Take It As It Comes on their 1992 album Mondo Bizarro, and it's a great cover. And in an interview with a Finland TV show called Rock Stop back in 1991 that we transcribed once, he said that he talked about some of his favorite bands of all time, and the Doors was one of them. And this is what he was asked about. The interview was made in 1991, and the biographical The Doors movie, directed by Oliver Stone, was released in 1991 as well. And he was asked if he liked that movie, and he said, "I guess I like it. I'm glad it was made, and I'm glad that Oliver Stone did it. You know what I mean? I'm glad they are being introduced to a younger generations. If you kind of have to take step back to take a step ahead. You know what I mean? To make great music in the future, you kind of have to go back to the late 50s, 60s, and 70s, because the music now is pretty much not very authentic." Imagine what Joey would think about the music nowadays, huh? Well, if you like the video, please leave a comment, tell me what you think, if you like the Doors or not, if you like these artists or not, which is your favorite The Doors album or song, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching, and if you want to read more, go to the description and read the article we wrote about that. You can find the link to all these interviews, and obviously don't forget to visit rockandrollgarage.com. Okay, thank you for watching, and I see you later.